All right, good morning, guys. Quick sound check. That's that's even crazier, Perry. Give up $1 billion worth of stuff to get what, 5 billion across? That the numbers are just insane there. Yeah, exactly. All right, good morning, guys. Appreciate the sound check there. So we have got FOMC today. So I'm going to run through kind of my game plan for today. Typically what I like to do on FOMC days. You'll notice here we had a little bit of 10 a.m. news coming out. The President Draghi speaking. Crude oil inventories at 10:30, and then from 2 to 2:30 is FOMC economic projections, a statement, federal funds rate, and then the FOMC press conference. So my game plan for today is I'd like to find a trade sometime today and be in and out of that trade hopefully by 10:30, 11 o'clock or so. And then from that point, I think it'll end up kind of being a little bit of a wait and see type of game here for the markets. I think kind of where we settle out somewhere in and around 10:30, 11 o'clock, maybe even 11:30. Um, we'll end up kind of being in that range for the next 2.5 hours or so until we hit that 2 o'clock FOMC announcement time. So I'm going to be patient and wait for the right trades this morning. If they do set up, though, I definitely want to take advantage of them. And I want to try and pad the books a little bit for today before FOMC. And then, again, I think that's going to give us a larger term direction here or confirm the direction of the move for us rather indefinitely there for at least the rest of June. So I'm going to start off here with the S&Ps, kind of my first little walkthrough of this morning, and what I'm seeing, what I'm thinking. We've got a pretty quiet overnight session so far. I mean, we're coming in with like 296,000 contracts traded on the day, but we only have about a 9-point range, 10-point range in the overnight session so far. So we really didn't move much last night. I mean, yesterday's first hour range of the day was 22.25 points, and we've only moved about 10 points in the overnight session so far. We're currently 29.26 so we're pretty much right at the closing print there, and we've traded it all the way down into 21.75s here in the pre-market session here. So my game plan for today, first thing is I think this kind of zone is pretty much right where we're going to stay in today for the regular trading hour session here for the next hour and a half, 2 hours or so until we hit that kind of mark. It's going to be 29.30.50, 29.21.75s, and what I want to do is take a little jump over to the extended hour session and see exactly where we went to in the overnight session. And what you'll notice is we went straight to 29.30.50s on the top to the tick, and we went straight to 29.21.75s to the tick. So literally exactly from level to level here in the overnight session is where this market has stayed inside of, right? We've got these levels in place, drew them on before looking at the pre-market session here, right? It wasn't like I just plopped them up here and said, hey, we're going to stay inside that zone. Went ahead and pulled them from the regular trading hours session chart here, and just so happens that the overnight session respected that and in the overnight session trading there. So I'm going to look for kind of moves one way or the other to those levels, and then look to kind of fade those back down. So they're going to be little small scalps. If we open right here about 26s, I'll use that kind of as the middle ground here for targets. So if we can rally up into 29.30.50s, establish some type of little short setup that I think we can fade back to the open, then open's going to end up being the target on that. Same thing on the downside. If we can sell off to kind of 29.21.75s and then work our way back up on a rally to the opening print there, then that's going to be my target. So we've got about 4 or 5 point target either direction here. And just going to play the small kind of scalp trades here with the right entry, and just try and pad the books just a little bit here before FOMC. So not getting too crazy here with the S&Ps. Now, after the announcement here, so we've got a couple levels here that we're going to want to pay attention to for after the announcement. So we got 29.30 50s, 29.34 is the top side, and then all the way up here into, if this will stick, 29.43 75s. Now, if we get to 29.43 75s, then we're pretty much going to new all-time highs probably this week. Depending on how that reacts up there, we could easily see up through those 29.54 50s this week. To the downside here, if the announcement comes out and it's, whatever, not what they wanted, we've got a lot of room to drop. I mean, I think we can work pretty much back into this gap here. I'm going to use a small level in here at 29.05 50s. And then I think the larger play is down here into 28.99 75s there for the S&Ps. So we've got a pretty decent, 43s up top. So what is that, 17 points or so? And we've got a pretty decent target on the downside here of 05s to 99s there. So working with, like a 20 to 25 point move to the downside here potentially today. So I think we'll have a decent opportunity there after FOMC. We've got the range potential here. I definitely don't see us just going sideways here. That would not make sense to me at all whatsoever. Especially given this move we've had off of lows. We've not tested any of this move on the way up. So at this point, it looks super strong, and my bets would be to the upside here for the day after FOMC. Looking for oil to get a move lower. Yeah, I'll take a look at oil here in a second. All right. Taking a look at the Nasdaq. So Nasdaq's got about a 30-point range going into today's session. We're currently 76.81, 75s here. We've got a couple levels in place for the Nasdaq. 77.02 75s here. This is going to be after the announcement. So after the announcement, if we can break through that and start working our way to the upside there, then I think we've got decent room for a target in here up into 77.30 75s, and then from there, pretty much we're game over all the way up into almost new all-time highs. There's going to be a small little hiccup, 78.20 50s. But, I mean, other than that, there's pretty much 100 points worth of movement right through here, 77.30s up to 78.27s that could pretty much be unstopped there in the markets. So Nasdaq's got the biggest opportunity, I think, to the upside here. It just has had this explosive move, again, like we've talked about on all the indices here. And I like the developing pattern in here. I like the strength that it's shown. Was a little bit kind of weaker there towards the end of the day yesterday. We did get a little bit more sell-off than we did in the rest of the markets. Dow went sideways, most likely on the backs of Boeing having a phenomenal day for the first time in like 20 years. But nonetheless here, I think NASDAQ, if we can get through this level and then work our way up into 77.30 75s, gives us an opportunity to get 100 points higher from that move. So I'm going to be paying attention to that around the FOMC here. Intraday here, I'm going to play two levels here for this morning's trading action. So 76.86 quarters to 76.67 quarters is kind of the do not trade zone for me. So we're kind of gapping just slightly under that do not trade zone at the moment. We're in that zone. So if we can break through 86 quarters, then I like the move back up to 77.02 75s here for a morning trade to the long side. If we're just kind of batting around between 86 quarter and 67 quarter, then I'd much rather look to the S&Ps that is respecting those levels in the overnight session and has what I think is a little bit better of a trade set up in there today than I would trying to play the NASDAQ, kind of back and forth inside of that range. So this is going to this kind of zone right in through here is going to end up being a do not trade zone for me today. Again, if we break through it, then that's a different story. We've got 77.02s that we can kind of get to up there. So I would prefer that we actually end up breaking through it. Kind of, shortly after the open here, and then we can catch ourselves, nice 15, 16 point trade up into 77.02, 75s, call it a morning, and then wait for the FOMC announcement at 2 o'clock, and then of course the 2:30 news as well. So that would be my game plan there for the Nasdaq. Again, I don't need for today. I don't need the S&Ps to confirm or the Nasdaq to confirm or anything like that to play either one of those markets. So I'm willing to take either S&Ps on the kind of range bound day or the Nasdaq on kind of the breakout day. So I want to give myself the flexibility there that in the event Nasdaq does want to break out, I'm okay with taking that. In the event that Nasdaq wants to range bound and S&Ps is going to range bound with that as well, then I have a play for the S&Ps for that range bound action. So that's what I'm looking at there for those two indices here. Russell here had a nice move yesterday, and overnight session in there pretty quiet. 5-point range in the overnight session here for the Russell so far. We've got levels above 1561.70s. Those come in from yesterday. Levels down below here at 1553.80s. Looks like we're just coming off those levels here from about 7:45 this morning. And at this point here, I think Russell will most likely end up staying inside of this range for today, or at least for up until FOMC here. So I think we have the range-bound trade covered with the S&Ps. I can see Russell kind of working its way up here this morning, kind of tagging this 1561.70. It likes to come into the day a little bit of a laggard, and then work its way up there. Speaking of that, we've got S&Ps unchanged on the day, Nasdaq up 0.13%, Russell up 0.11%, and the Dow up 0.05%. So really the only one that's kind of standing out here is the S&Ps being unchanged. And again, S&Ps and Dow are kind of moving together. Russell and Nasdaq, again, coming into the day, are moving together as well. Anyways, but I think Russell will end up being range bound for the morning for that, so I'd rather play the S&Ps. And then taking a look at the Dow here. So the Dow is the closest to actually getting new all-time highs here, at least in the futures market. So 26,658 here, that's like 140 some points away. We're currently trading 26,514 here. So I think the Dow actually will be the first one to get the new highs here. And basically, I mean, we've got some levels in here that we can play from for today. This thing did try and rally up and get new highs closer to the end of the day yesterday, and just couldn't quite do it. So we got 26,520 level in place there, which has kind of held us this morning so far. We've traded a high of 26,541, so we pushed through that level by 20 points or so here. But I do think we'll kind of push through that and start working our way to the upside. These are going to be the smaller levels here as we rally in the Dow. 26,590s, 26,607s, 26,642s. And basically what I'm going to end up doing with those levels is if I miss some type of entry here today to get long the Dow for the new all-time highs, then I'll start looking as we trade into these levels if we can get resistance, or if we can get entries off of that resistance level. Maybe it hits it, goes sideways, then breaks out. Maybe it pushes through it, then pulls back and retest, and we can step into the long side and find our way into a long position there for the Dow. So I like the Dow here from a swing perspective, and I do think it'll be the first one to go ahead and get those new highs. I actually think those new highs could probably come either today or maybe even tonight into tomorrow for the overnight session there. So whatever position I do try and pick up here in the Dow, nothing intraday up until FOMC, but any position I do try to pick up in here, or that I am able to pick up in here, is with the intentions of holding it for a swing up into 26,659s and get those new all-time highs for the Dow futures here, at least on this contract. Someone's saying short AUD USD. I'll take a look at AUD USD. Typically, I'll switch over to gold and take a look at gold and crude here. We got a couple extra minutes this morning, so I'll take a look at AUD USD here. What filter do you have for supply demand zones? I don't use any MACDs or Hakanashi or anything like that. Just pure price. Yeah, 1 hour time frame here on AUD USD. Let me take a look at the weeklies, the larger time frame stuff. So weekly chart in there. Take a look at the daily here. I'm probably actually going to be counter to what you are thinking. You're looking short here, it looks like, for AUD USD here. I'm actually not thinking that we get this move to the. I mean, I think we get a move to the downside here. I think it might actually end up reversing there. So we got a couple levels in place here on the way down that would need to hold in order to confirm that. Just trying to get establish the pattern in here. So we would need a break to the upside here. 0.68743 is there, and then I think AUD USD goes back to the upside here. As long as we don't break that level first, then I think we'll kind of trade down here into this 0.68454 level. From there, if we end up getting any type of reaction from there, then I think we kind of rally back up. And basically what I'm looking at there is on the weekly chart here, we've got, kind of this nice fall to the downside. We set these lows, we rally back up, we come down, we've pierced those lows so far. You can see the bottoming tail here. And I think that ends up kind of reversing there as a failure to go lower. And at this point, on a daily chart here, we've got, nice move to the downside here. This is breaking through those lower areas on the weekly chart we were just looking at. We've got the nice green bar in here. I think we'll reverse some of that move, shake a couple of people in thinking we're going to the downside, and then reverse to the upside. Again, for me, I wouldn't mess with this short until under 0.68454s personally. And I wouldn't really mess with it to the long side until over 0.68743s. So that's what I'm seeing there in AUD USD. Brett is asking, how do you get timely financial news release? CNBC is delayed a minute 30. What about internet feed for real-time releases? So I don't actually watch the news or listen to the news or kind of care about the news. I just like to know when it actually is. So I just use forexfactory.com and I'll pull up whatever the news announcements are for that day, kind of lock those in the memory bank. And, I know at 10 o'clock today, we got Draghi speaking, 10:30 is crude oil inventories. And then the big ones are at 2 o'clock and 2:30. So I just kind of keep a mental note of those. I don't really care what the numbers are. I don't care if, unemployment numbers are off or, whatever. Because by the time that information is released, everybody else in the market knows. And it really doesn't matter because nobody knows what to do with that information anyway. I'd rather just look at the chart and figure out what the chart's telling me to do with that information based on the reactions that we're getting in the markets from everybody else. So that's my take on news, at least. Taking a look at gold here. Gold still same thing. I think Perry and I are on the same page here with gold. This kind of 1350 level up in here is a pretty significant level. Somewhere in this zone, at least, not 1350 specifically, but well, I mean, we've basically been here for 5 years. Every time we've come up here, we just continue to get knocked off this 1350 level. So, I don't think it's going to break through on the first attempt here. We've basically spent about 2 weeks at this level now. And I think, we might have a little bit more time there. FOMC is going to be interesting with this, right? Gold's going to close here. It'll still be trading, obviously, around the FOMC announcement there at 2 and 2:30, but we could see a really, really nice move in this. I think we'll see a whole lot of nothing today for today up until FOMC, kind of something like this, right? And then whichever way gold breaks today based on the FOMC, I think is the direction that we can look to play it for the next few weeks. I think that holds true in both the markets and from a broader, larger term perspective, and then also as well here for gold. So Gold, just one of those waiting games again. Unfortunately, this thing is not. It's just not given the entries that I would have preferred to have seen in there this year. So very limited trading in gold so far. And then Kaylin's talking about looking for crude to roll over here. Yeah, so crude's got that 10:30 news announcement. I still got this level in place down in here. I think that level is going to shift with the futures rollover. Yeah, so let me go ahead and kind of redraw this up here. Currently looking like a move that we could get down into 49.85s. So the level's only 1 penny off there. If we can get down into 49.85s there, as long as we don't break 48.50s there, I think we'll be good for that move back to the upside in crude. So I'd like to see that breakdown here, get down into these 49.85s here, and then from there look at reversing back to the upside here in crude. If not, if we don't hold 49.85s, we got about another $1.30 to drop to 48.50s, and then from there it could be all she wrote for crude, and this would be a pretty monster move. If I remember what the weekly, yeah, this could actually be a pretty monster move if we don't end up holding this area down here in crude. You can see it's trying to do so on the weekly chart right now. Would be nice to see probably 2 more weeks, which I don't really want to wait that long, to be honest. But for this particular chart pattern, we either need to see this come down this week and then rally back, or we need to see it kind of hold these 54s up in here somewhere on the week, go a little higher the next week, and then in the following week or two drop down here, kind of tag our levels, and then reverse. So at least from a weekly chart perspective. And that's what I got for this morning. 9:25 on the dot. So I still am carrying a little bit of that BYND position that I talked about in last night's video. I did not get assigned on any of that, and BYND is gapping up like $3, so not too big of a deal in there. P&L opens down about $155 on that trade. That and Amazon are the only 2 things, which Amazon has like 30 days to go till expiration, are the only 2 things I'm carrying over here so far for today. And all right, I'm going to switch this back over to a 987 tick chart and zoom out there. So anyways, that's what I've got for you guys this morning. That's going to be my game plan. Again, I'd like to have a trade done and in the books by 10:30, 11 o'clock or so. Otherwise, 11:30 to 1:30, I'm going to be hitting the gym. I want to get that workout in today and then kind of be ready to go for FOMC at 2 o'clock. Typically, I don't like to work out during the middle of the day just because markets are open and things like that. But with FOMC, markets are going to pretty much be flat at least after 11:30, 12 o'clock there. 9 times out of 10, that's typically what I like to see, or typically what I do see here for FOMC days. So I'm not going to be pressing the doldrum session here for the day in the markets. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out. Hopefully some of you guys are new people around here, and if you are, go ahead and click that subscribe button and turn on the little bell notification, because I go live each and every morning at 9 o'clock sharing my thoughts and analysis and what I'm looking to do for the trading day ahead with you guys absolutely free here on YouTube. And it's free. So again, click that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below if you have any comments or questions, suggestions, whatever the case is. And if you want to join me in the MLT Discord, which I've mentioned before, there's going to be a link in the description below. That's where you can trade live with me for the first hour to hour and a half of the market each and every day. There's a link in the description below. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. Take care, trade safe today, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.